Excellent. Okay, dokes. So for me, when my father committed a crime and spent a night in prison, it was quite a shocking experience. He had laid down as part of Extinction Rebellion and blocked a road here in Edinburgh in Scotland. And he sat me down and he said, Christian, what are you working on? I previously had set up a tech-enabled translation business, and I think I was complaining to him about Brexit over here. And he said, son, Brexit is really a pimple. It's a political problem that over the long term will go away. Climate change has massive implications for your children, my grandchildren, and humanity, and we'll see the breakdown of civilization if we don't do something about it. And so he got me thinking about what I could do as an individual, as a member of the sort of mass affluent West, with my skills in a tech-enabled business. And I started to think about what you could do as an individual. And as an individual, you can obviously reduce your carbon footprint, or your pawprint, as we like to call it. But once you do that, you get into diminishing returns, because you know, we can't live like monks, like, you know, in the woods type thing. It doesn't gel with our modern way of living. And what I came to as a conclusion was that we, as I say, as members of the affluent West, the greatest opportunity we have to have a real impact in the fight against climate change, to build a sort of snowball effect of positivity, is through our employers, because our employers really can change on the basis of influence from their employees, from their customers, from their shareholders, and from other stakeholders. And so that's the background to why I decided to build Pawprint. You can see our non-judgmental polar bear icon, Bjorn the bear there, as a vehicle, if you like, the connective tissue for people within businesses to do what they want and can do on climate. You can see we've already got some of the UK's largest businesses, typically businesses with 3,000 plus employees as customers. And we've also got some large international companies like Vodafone. We've got a major accountancy coming on board, and BlackRock, as well as Bain & Co. Coming on board. So we've got about 50 different customers. So what is the problem that we're trying to solve? So there's a lot of chat in our space about sort of two sectors. One is measuring carbon within a business, so the business level carbon footprint measurement, and the other one is carbon removal, or offsets, as some people call it. But the offset side, once measured, the offset side, according to international protocols, can only take 10% away. So there's a huge opportunity for technologies that actually support people to reduce through action. And one of the problems that businesses of scale have is that they will typically be like this. These green dots represent the people in the organization who are educated and motivated to do something about sustainability. And as we all know, if you've got, you know, just one dedicated team really on this, maybe a CEO who's got it, who understands it, who's educated and motivated, but a few people dotted around, real change is not going to happen. This is what you need. This is what the world needs. And this is what Pawprint delivers. So an organization in which all of the dots have been turned green, you have a climate-centric culture, but not only that, that organization is like a beacon of light to others, and you have dots turning green in other stakeholders, whether that's investors, job seekers, regulators, or customers. I want you to meet Josie. So Josie is our the customer within businesses who has the pain that we're addressing. So this is where, so Josie has an ambition to, and this is based on a real person. She's a sustainability manager in a corporate with 3,000 plus employees and white collar employees. She has to reduce emissions by 46% in absolute terms by 2026, not using offsetting. This is her list of things that she's got to do. She's got to engage the entire workforce personally to make climate part of everyone's job. She's got to educate employees on sustainability and company objectives. She's got to reduce employee emissions, scope 3, things like traveling to work, traveling for work, work from home emissions, purchases, you name it. She's got to attract new talent. This is a real reason why companies are buying Pawprint as an authentic climate conscious company, not one that just buys its way out of trouble. And she's got to report on emissions and stay ahead of regulations. So we've actually got people who are already.
Your time is up.
Oh, you're joking. That's 5 minutes. Goodness.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's 5 minutes. How much you guys raising, and quick updates on where you're at with the company while I bring everybody in.
So these are our customers. It's goodness me, time flies. This is what we've raised so far, 3.4 million. We're raising to get us to 1 million of ARR, and then we're going to grow to be much bigger in the US, which is our real opportunity. Sorry, guys, that was unbelievably quick.
No worries, no worries. One quick question I would have for you is, there's a lot of people trying to do employee engagement for climate. Why will you be the ones who make something massive out of it?
So my view is that so I've got a slide on that actually. It feels to me that there aren't that many who are doing it in the way that we're doing it, that are motivating people within the system with rewards, whether those are extrinsic or intrinsic rewards, and also who are aligning it very tightly to the company's objectives, including profit and loss. The way I see the sector, and I've got supporting information on this, is that there are about 18 different companies trying to do climate action. They tend to fall into like a Benevity or a WeSpire servicing CSR more broadly and without alignment, and quite established in the US, or more sort of focused on companies just like employees doing personal actions because that's a good thing to do and that helps to educate them rather than aligning them with the company's targets. So I think it's the combination of deep understanding of the motivation, both of the individual employees and the companies.
And how often would employees be using something like this? Is this a daily thing, or is this occasionally it's giving them updates on what they're doing and what they could do different?
It varies quite a lot. I mean, there are some who use it daily, but I think realistically, we want to get a broader level of usage across a bigger amount of the workforce. Like it's when you get to sort of 25% of a workforce that you see real change happening. Our target is to get 10% of a workforce engaging quarterly, and we're hitting that today. So that's the expectation, because our value is not, like, it's not the value, the engagement itself is not where the value is. That's just part of the value. You know, if we get 10%, that delivers the business a certain amount of value that it can attribute to its P&L. If you get 15% or 20%, it doesn't become 50% or 100% more valuable unless that engagement is actually achieving something against the climate targets or the P&L targets.
And what kind of change on a per employee basis are you actually driving?
So it really depends where they're at. If they are, we joke, and I hope this joke isn't too sort of crass for an American audience, that within a workforce you have the Donalds, you have the Gretas, and you have the mainstream middle. So with the Donalds, you can imagine our ambitions are less. We just want people to be a little bit more educated about the difference and say, hey, I might try a plant-based burger, for example. I'm not talking about the man himself, okay? I'm talking about people like him. With the Gretas, we're saying this is a vehicle whereby you can engage people who aren't where you're at on your journey in a way that's non-judgmental, that's positive, and that's educational. But the real aim is for the mainstream middle, the people who are time constrained, cost constrained, to just start their journey, take little steps to contribute to their own personal reduction or their company's wider sustainability efforts.
Understood. Haj, do you want to kick things off on the next round of questions? What would you like to know?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Really quick, number one, thank you for the presentation. Really great. Are you familiar with the site Miles or Get Miles?
I'm not, no.
It does incentivization. The reason I asked is because we've been seeing a lot of these types of companies, and it goes back towards the whole idea of true incentivization economically. So I think that it's really interesting on this. The question I have for you though is, you mentioned you were really going to kind of concentrate on kind of the mid piece of that. Do you think the message has to be different for those people who may not know about it, know about climate, or even care about it? How is the message different for that population?
I think the message depends very much on the employer. So it has to be appropriate for, their employer brand. And I think it's really important that they align it with the company's objectives, because if they don't, the Donalds and the mainstream middle who are closer to the Donalds are going to see it as being a sort of irrelevant bit of do-goodery. And I think that's a real problem for people who are trying to affect change. We're not all going to make changes to our lives because it's the right thing to do. We're not wired like that. And even though we have the best intentions. So we've got to contextualize it within the business context as being relevant to doing your job well and towards your business future-proofing itself, if that makes sense.
If you don't mind me jumping in here real quick. So I apologize for this, might be a little bit, out of my typical scope. But in terms of either gamifying these incentives or creating some iterative responsive recursiveness to using your platform or building up conviction to do more, what does success look like then for an individual or an entity to get to some greater vision that you have?
Brilliant question, and so critical to how we take this to be a sort of a business that's got exponential impact rather than, we just have to sell to a new corporate without any benefit to the existing people. We're starting off with some fairly simple and predictable gamification techniques. So, for example, people earn paw points as they take on actions, and they can vote for a climate-friendly charity. One of the means that we've got that has motivated people quite a lot is we run leaderboards and sprints that run for 28 days. So we found that teams within companies really want to, be the winner or have some exciting stories to share or somehow, be good actors within the community. What we've launched recently is benchmarking. So companies can see how they're getting on when it comes to the different actions that contribute to the Science-Based Targets Initiative, and they can learn from other members of our community. We've now got about 60 companies using it. What really works to make a sprint run? Is it the reward? Is it the fact that the CEO has said he's doing it or she's doing it, and so on? Is it the way it's communicated? Is it the competitive thing? Is it aligning it with something else? There are quite a lot of different ways of doing it. But our view is that creates a bit of a competitive moat, us being able to share some of that data and insights, and that's closed within our system. But what we're looking at now, and we've actually launched it today in line with COP, is a sort of open competition. So you can see who are positively the most engaged companies and in what ways. And that's a sort of reward at a company level for really embracing this.
Mm-hmm. And then, oh, sorry, Matt, if you were going to jump in.
I was going to say, or a guilt trip way to get companies that aren't using it to start using it, which is probably even more effective.
Yeah, we'll try and keep it positive, and we'll certainly champion the guys who are doing really well rather than shaming people who are future heroes. Yeah.
And then to kind of go one step above, or really kind of go down to the foundation of Pawprint. So you started addressing on the problem at the beginning, but I'm curious to know what you think the real underlying problem is that the industry is facing, and why we can't get people to be more climate conscious, just in general, as a lifestyle or as a corporate action as a communal entity.
I think that's a massive question I'd love to discuss over probably a few beers with you, but I think it's around the sort of incentives. So if you are in a job, like most people hate their jobs, right? And most people are there for the paycheck and, anything, and they're not engaged. And so if you ask them to do something that they can't see why they should, that's a problem. And I think the other thing is that there's a lot of science as to why, although we've got good intentions, we don't always, live according to them. And I think that fundamentally that we just have different pressures on us, and there's a sort of cognitive dissonance between our yeah, those actions and so on. But I'm not an authority on that. I think this is it's a big problem to get people to change, and there's more work to be done on that. What we've got is a range of ways in which we can try and motivate people of different profiles, yeah, and experiment, right? That's what our partners are doing very well with us. They're working with our product team to try different things, to get engagement up, to align it, and so on. It is tough, right? I'm not going to shy away from that.
Awesome, thank you.
What's it cost?
What's
the actual business model?
Yeah, the business model. So it's currently a SaaS basis. So we charge based on the number of eligible employees. So it's to do with the size of the organization and the complexity of the rollout. But to give you a rough idea, 1,000 employee business would be roughly $30,000 per year.
Understood. Very cool. Then I want to make sure, sorry, I would have other questions, but I think we've given enough time right now, just because we've got a couple other companies that still have to pitch. Any last questions for Christian, guys?
Yeah, I just have one. Have you seen any of the customer verticals or any type of businesses be more receptive to using this versus others?
Definitely. Unfortunately, it's still a very much a middle class sport, and so we're seeing white collar companies take it on board. So tech companies, financial services, other professional services is where it's at for us today.
Okay, thanks.
How do you plan to change that?
Well, we've got a big market to go at with those types of companies. I think that as we will, so we're not trying to change it today. I think that as we develop a marketplace for sort of climate friendly products and services, I think some of the extrinsic stuff might shift that if people can see, like, we save people about $500 a year on average from the changes that they make. When we can not just save them money, but actually give them stuff for free, I think more people will get engaged with what we're trying to do. So,
or carbon credits or something, or carbon credit lottery for employees.
Yeah, we're going to stay nice and open-minded on that, because we're going to do what works and what works at scale,